I did confirmations last week. Like I had quite a good run there, 7 days. Boom, 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 boom. I started in Cold Lake and went in Barrhead in the center and west of the diocese. And on the very last night of confirmations, it was in Athabasca. And Athabasca, the university people have been, there's been a question back and forth about, and so it's the parish is kind of small. They've lost a lot of people because of the change of employment of some of their adults. So it was just 3 children being confirmed, but that's fine. God only counts to 1, they say. And the third was a little girl in a special wheelchair, and she was 10. Her name was Madeline, and so she would be a Down syndrome child, I would think. I wasn't told that explicitly, but I think I recognize the situation. But she was responsive. She could nod. She didn't speak, but she nodded in response to the questions. And so these are ranch families. Her parents were there with, jeans and work boots, but she was in her finery and a very pretty white dress with ribbons. But what was touching was that her 11-year-old and 13-year-old big brothers were her sponsors, and they were in charge of taking care of their little sister. And they knew exactly what to do with the chair, and they stood holding her hands as she made her responses to the questions. Yeah, good memory. Oh, it's people. It's people that you have to adjust to, a moving on and a certain letting go. It's people things that you read. Quite frankly, having the responsibility as the bishop and the leader of a community, having to make decisions that are ultimately only you can make, that affect other people's lives, is a responsibility which I found very heavy and painful at times. And so that I'm passing on with a certain relief. Well, I'd begin with something just geographical. I think just the geography that we're given from the Creator is a first reason for saying thank you. And this is a very beautiful, lush part of Alberta. When they speak of drought or agriculture being impacted by whatever in the weather, elsewhere, more southerly in the province, here the harvests are robust, and there's a traditional agricultural way of life in this community that's of course geographically based. And so with agriculture, there is a continuation of the pioneer homesteading experience. And these Catholic communities, it's 150 years ago. So we have grandparents and elderly people here who had lived as children the experience of the homesteaders. Homesteading involved, yes, all kinds of work, but it also involved a social dimension. I mean, neighbors were really important. The women helped each other birthing children. The men sewed together, they harvested together, and so the homestead pioneering experience in this part of the country is relatively recent and still accessible within the families here, and families carry that tradition. Compared to, I was born in Montreal and have family from Eastern Canada, different parts of Eastern Canada. And there, that pioneer experience is 250, 300 years in the past. Whereas here, that, first homesteading and pioneering on the land experience is still relatively present. And of course, in faith communities, all of that is very relevant. I mean, you were a farm family. Well, you prayed together and you worshiped together, and so in this part of Alberta, there's it's still rural Alberta. Well, I'd summarize it in the expression "build the fence." You know, if you've got a job to do, get it done. Roll up your sleeves and don't stand around and wait. So there's a certain there again, I think it's probably connected to the pioneer experience. You know, don't wait around, make hay while the sun's shining or whatever, you know. So ideally, what I would hope, and you know, I've shared this informally with other bishops, really going forward, the ideal would be to not only intentionally have in our parishes and communities some sort of outreach and preparation for our young people. Look, this is who we are and the way we live our faith here, but soon you're going to be in a big city where it's XYZ different. And then in the big city dioceses, our urban dioceses, have an equivalent kind of outreach and preparation in some key communities or chaplaincies or student groups where there's some sort of intentional reception of young people so that we don't go from a rural practice of the faith to an urban just absence of practice. So I would hope that as we go forward that we could be forward-looking and provide bridges, you know, from our rural, stable kind of traditional practice of the faith to working and living in the big city. I think it's providential. I'm very grateful that the Holy Spirit is sending us a particular bishop, you know, this particular bishop-elect, Bishop Gary Franken, because he's from Vancouver after all. And they're, you know, it's a big city, it's a big urban, they have both rural areas, but, you know, mainly the majority of their faithful are in the urban sprawl. So he's got a background, and he will. We've already discussed some things, and he sees similarly as I do.